This is 6 lessons learned from creating content. So hi, my name is Mylene. Some of you may know that I make videos about lessons in my 20s. So these are some of the videos that I make on Instagram, and they're just cinematic reels that capture things that I've learned throughout my 20 years of living. Today, though, I want to do something a little bit different, and I wanted to share the lessons from my journey of actually creating. So kind of more behind the scenes, what it's been like as a content creator over the past year, and how my perspectives have sort of changed throughout this journey. So 1 year ago, I was here, literally in this room. So my content journey started off in SF1 here at Buildspace, but it also started off here. I had 0 subscribers. I hadn't started my YouTube channel yet. I didn't have Instagram yet, and I barely had picked up a camera even. So that's kind of where it started. Now I'm here, literally physically in the space again, but also now with more eyes on my content. But this doesn't actually matter. The numbers don't really mean that much at the end of the day. What really matters and what I really want to focus on in this talk is how my relationship with creating content has changed over the past year. Because I think when you're going through the cycle of creating content, it's really hard to kind of zoom out and see the full picture. And so now that it's been almost a full year of me creating content, I think it's really interesting to just analyze how my perspective on creating has changed over time and what that kind of looks like. So if I were to depict it on a graph, this is kind of what it would look like. So this is basically my relationship with creating content over time and kind of how I felt. As you can see, it's really not linear at all. So the basis of this presentation is basically going to be me digging into different segments of time and the things that I learned during those phases of time. So starting off with the very beginning. So this was basically me when I was first getting started in Buildspace SF1, when I was just getting started on creating content. At the time, I was making YouTube videos exclusively. I wasn't really even focusing on Instagram or anything like that. And I was posting 1 YouTube video per week. The goal at the time was to hit 5,000 subscribers, but this goal was actually hurting me, and I didn't realize it at the time. So this is kind of the graph of what my metrics looked like through that span of creating during Buildspace. I was posting videos every week, but again, there isn't really a big spike of growth, and that's what I was thinking or hoping would happen. So each week that I kept showing up, and each week that I wasn't blowing up or the views weren't hitting what I thought they would, I would just feel like even lower and lower. So that's why the relationship of me creating content kind of decreased over time. There would be like the small wins of when I'd post a video, but then it would just go back into a low of wondering why things hadn't yet blown up. And so the first lesson here that I realized was you should really be focusing more on the inputs rather than the outputs. So you can't control who follows you, you can't control how many people view your content, but what you can control is how often you show up. So the next big question I feel like that I often hear is, okay, but how often should I show up? So personally for me, I really don't like daily posting. I think that that's something that, at least for me, is kind of unrealistic and just makes me feel like I don't have enough time to actually live life, and I'm just spending more time editing and making videos, but not actually feeling inspired and living life. So I think my advice when it comes to figuring out a good cadence for how often you should be posting, it's really on picking something that is recurring and still pushes you, but isn't something that takes away from just feeling inspired and being able to actually live your life and experience things and have stories to tell. So that ties into the second lesson, which is at what point do you go from quantity to quality? So I was talking to another creator. Her name is actually April Lynn. It's Rock's girlfriend, if you remember Rock's. He was also an SF1 person or student in the school. I was talking to her a lot about this journey of creating, and I think a lot of the times it's really hard to tell when you should kind of sacrifice quality over just posting on a recurring schedule. And one of the pieces of advice that she gave to me, and it really stuck with me, was when you know for a fact that you're going to keep showing up. So for example, if your dream is to become a content creator or your dream is to grow big on YouTube, and you know for a fact that that's a goal that you're going to take to the grave basically, or it's something that you know for a fact you're going to keep showing up even on the rainy days, then that's when you can kind of start to choose to prioritize quality a little bit more. Even when talking to some of the other YouTubers in the SF1 cohort at the time, it was always kind of a balance of, do I spend 2 weeks to create this video or a month even to create this video, or do I just push something out right away just to get something out there? And so I think when you know for a fact that you're going to keep showing up, that's when you can keep, spending a little bit of extra time. Because otherwise, you kind of run into a case where if you're still kind of shaky on your goals, you're still not really sure if you have it in you to keep going. If you spend 4 weeks, 6 weeks, whatever on a video, it's very possible that you might just fall off right there and not show up anymore because you felt like you took so long on that video. So when you don't know if you'll keep showing up, I think that's when it's really important to choose consistency. So moving on to the next part of my journey, at this point in time now, I had just finished SF1, and I'm back into the world trying to figure out what exactly it means to me to continue creating content. At this point, I felt pretty jaded in terms of metrics, and I decided to just kind of toss those out the window. So I started focusing less on the number of subscribers, the number of views, and just finding what actually brings me joy in creating content and what does that actually look like. So at this point in time, again, I started letting go of the metrics, and I started spending longer on videos and creating things that I actually like. This is a project that I made which is very unrelated to any of the other content that I had made at the time, and it was a longer project that involved more people, and so it took longer to release, but it just really reinvigorated that joy of creating again. And so at that point in time, I also even opened up to experimenting to short form content. I was actually extremely closed off to short form content at the time because I thought that short form content would restrict me from being able to express my ideas creatively. But what I actually realized was this new form of content that I was restricting myself from was actually allowing me to experiment with my ideas faster and more often. And so I actually did really enjoy the fact that I started creating more short form content. So at the beginning of my journey, I was creating a lot of pretty random stuff. I wasn't really putting a whole lot of effort into short form content. I was just kind of choosing to post like once or twice a week, and not really much was happening here. It was just kind of me getting the reps in and kind of trying to understand this new platform. So I think the most important lesson that came in this point in time, and one that you'll probably hear me say a lot, especially if you talk to me afterwards, or even just in a lot of the stuff that I do right now, it's learning how to have fun again. I think this has been one of the most pivotal learnings for me and the biggest perspective shifts that I've had in creating content, because fun is really what takes an idea from a thought to a finished video most consistently. And fun is what keeps you trying new things even when you feel like things are tough or you want to give up. Fun is the thing that keeps you long enough to see you win, because people usually quit before they even have a chance to see the benefits or their hard work pay off. And so as long as you focus on keeping things fun and enjoying the process, then that's probably one of the most surefire ways of guaranteeing that you'll stick around and be alive long enough to see that hard work pay off.